Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing alright. First, let me check my volume. Always check your sound. I mean that on multiple levels. We exist in different worlds, man. And God, if that is clear on this story. I'm blown away by the story, if I'm being honest, to some degree. I've been blown away a few times. The Then Story show really did shake me. Like, I know I keep bringing that up, and I don't mean that, the show is just me. This is a detour, because this show is supposed to be completely different. This show is just me. This is how I am. My wife will tell you, this is how I am. I probably seem a little bit more affable in this setting. I am the God in this space. I am perfectly free to be who I am in this space because I created this space. I am what I am. If anybody who's around me who's a crew to me, you're probably one of a band of misfit toys. Welcome to the party. I am bad at certain things. So, you know, me setting up my Patreon thing. I'm bad at that. I'm not the greatest in the world at that. You get me in a room and ask me to think shit up, I'm your guy. I'm not the guy to organize your life. My wife is great at that. So she is taking the reins to that. I'm just saying, this is who I am. I am what I am. I don't try to pretend to be anything else. My position of who I am gets solidified in having this channel. And I don't necessarily know if that's the best, at least from the standpoint of point of view. When I went to, I did two things. I went to Venezuela and I went to Sarah Reynolds, the Progressive Patriot. And I was on her show and I was on their show. And it literally is, you're on different worlds. Now, I've been on progressive shows. I've been on radio shows. But, God, we exist in different realities, man. It's an accident happens. You ask, there are 10 people there. You ask those 10 people what happened. Those 10 people start explaining to you what happened. It's not just that those 10 people are telling you something different because they have some bias or something. No, they really did experience something different. There may be an objective reality there. Nobody there would ever find it. And it's not just nobody would ever find it. The way that you experience reality, maybe experience reality fundamentally different from somebody else in a different body, because that different body has different biases. If you're 350 pounds, you're going to experience it a little bit differently than somebody who's, you know, a great human specimen, just from the standpoint of the ease at which you can move your muscles. Your world is different. And we're trying to manage this. It's, I don't know, fascinated by this. And it just makes me more, it betters me. That's what it is. It betters me. It betters me. It makes my arguments better. And it makes me see things from other people's point of view. And that's positive. Sometimes it makes me think I'm more right. And other times it's aggravating. Because I don't know how to unfix that person from that position. Like, if, say for the moment, that the United States collapsed. I don't know why. It collapsed. And say for the moment that this country becomes some kind of Soviet government. It won't be the same Soviet government that's over there, but let's say it's a socialist country. People that are born in this country, the people who are right now advocating capitalism, this full-throated roar, will be doing the exact same thing with a full-throated roar for socialism in that reality. They take positions purely because of where they are and fixed in this kind of timeline, in this reality space. It's not because they absolutely chose those positions. It is aggravating as fuck. Talking to somebody where you're trying to unfix them from that point of view, and they are fixed in that point of view. Not because they... If we were in that timeline, and if I was arguing with them, in the same way that I'm arguing with them, and I'm trying to get them to see that, look, this has gone too far, and this is not socialism. This is something else. This is a totalitarian state. They're killing people. This is not the greatest thing in the world. And they will be arguing with me that, no, this is the greatest thing in the world, and I'm going to defend this particular position. Their position, their argument, is purely just because of where they are and fixed. It's not something that they chose. But that doesn't matter, because ultimately, it's their space. And that's a fucking detour. All right. Here's the thing. Let's start here. Under the items for patron, because we're keeping that patron appreciation thing going for each month or for each week. Under the last video, put down the items that you want to talk about. Now, I'm not sure what we're going to choose for Friday, but we will have something chosen by Friday. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Because it was like a list of items. Oh, and the last thing. They've demonetized the channel. I've reapplied for monetization. I haven't gotten word back from YouTube. But you can support the channel either through Patreon, through PayPal, or through the link at the bottom through Streamlabs. It's a super chat. You can say alternative to super chat. My wife asked me about this. Now, I'm not even going to bring up what it is. And I think some people know because you can look at the title of this video. So I'm going to start here because we started at somewhat of a weird place talking about things that are kind of off topic. I want to talk about Martin Luther King. When I hit my political awakening, part of the thing that brought me to my political awakening was King and Baldwin and X. Listening, I don't know if people have ever listened to these guys talk about these things, having these conversations. They would have vicious conversations about race in the open. They were in hostile territory. And in being in hostile territory, they knew their lives could be forfeit. And in two of these cases, their lives were forfeit. Imagine this for a moment. This is a free at last speech, but I want to give you the context. This speech is being done in the context of all sorts of chaos. This is the 60s. People are being killed. People are being shot. There's civil rights legislation that's potentially going to be passed. For all intents and purposes, this is utter chaos. Martin Luther King is speaking in the context of bombings. He's speaking in the context of Vietnam. He's speaking in the context of freedom riders, speeches, sit-ins. He came to the conclusion of peace. He used peace as a weapon. You can say, to some degree, it was a tactic, and it was a tactic, because he realized that this was the way to get him his ends, the thing that he wanted, which was equality. But not just equality from the standpoint of race, but equality in the standpoint of economic status. Because there's a realization that there is no way to achieve any level of, I'm using this term equality, but the term is too flat. Without a certain, if you're in a capitalistic society, you need a certain degree of capital. You need ends. If you don't have any level of economic space, then what is your freedom worth? If I can't afford healthcare, afford education, what does it matter if you think that I'm a man? Yes, it's nice that you acknowledge me as a man, but I am dying on the street without healthcare and education. Listen to this.
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Look at all these people. I mean, I'm trying to get you to understand firmly, to understand and to fix in your mind the context of what was going on. We were talking about utter chaos. What we consider to be chaos today, I would argue to you, pales to some degree of what was taking place in the 60s, especially within regards to this country. Now imagine, after the end of all this, Martin Luther King gives his triumphant speech. I have a dream that we're going to get over this. We're going to get over this hump. We're going to beat our guns into plowshares. And we're going to do something else. We're going to have this kumbaya moment in the sun where blacks and whites are able to work together. And after it, you see Nike. How does that feel? Because you know what they're talking about, right? Like, you know what King is talking about when he's making this speech. And then you see Nike. To some degree, it cheapens the experience. Am I wrong? Like, I have feelings about this. If I saw that, it would cheapen what King was trying to get across. Because ultimately what King was trying to get across was this liberation of a class of people in what could be arguably called an apartheid state. Yes, in America. You had two sides of people living together in one space. And one side was not acknowledging that the other person was even a man. Yes, it's apartheid. The dismantling of apartheid, being commodified. How would that feel? Cheapening what's this intangible thing of defiance, resilience, all of this intangible quantity that this thing is of what was the civil rights movement nailed down into a commodified thing of buy Nike, if you like what Martin Luther King is saying. It cheapens the experience by trying to bring it down to something that's material. I saw this. Where is it? Let's see. Let's look at this in a different way. Let's start here. Tamir Rice, 12-year-old, shot back up. Within 3 seconds of getting out of the car, that kid was dead. The gun wasn't even real. Now, you can say those cops had every right to shoot that kid. I would ask you, are those cops so incompetent that they don't know what else to do when dealing with a situation like this as to kill the person? Say for the moment that the gun was real. Is your only retort to kill that person? There's no way to ascertain intent other than shooting the person within a few seconds of getting out of the gun. Please tell me you recognize that there's a problem with this. They got off. No charges at all. They got off. Here's another one. I can go through these all day. Yeah, that's a guy with his knee on the neck of another man in the middle of the street in New York. He's screaming, I can't breathe. And he couldn't breathe. He was telling the truth. He died. He was choked to death by a cop. Why did that cop murder that guy? He was selling loose cigarettes. He was murdered for selling loose cigarettes. Yes, that's true. Now, on the streets, in this country, we have 5% of the world's population with 25% of the world's prison population in our jails. Think about that. Think of the number of people that you would have to have in your jails to hit that number, 25% of the world's population in your prisons. And here we have a man for selling loose cigarettes. Do you honestly believe that any person that was making ends meet would be on the street selling loose cigarettes? No, they wouldn't be. They wouldn't be selling loose cigarettes. And yet, here's a man selling loose cigarettes, and for whatever reason, this cop killed him. That's the bare bones reality of it. And got off. Got off. Here's another one.
Video. We haven't seen any video that shows what led to this, but according to the police report...
Yeah, that's a guy running away with the cop shooting him in the back. Want to see another one?
That while a woman and 2 children appear at the end of the aisle, Crawford never actually points the gun at them.
He's a black male, black shirt and blue jeans.
Yeah.
Does he have a hat or anything on?
No, he's got like an afro.
An afro? Okay. Beaver Creek, did you get that?
I got it. Has an afro.
Right here, please.
Gotcha. What's your name again, sir?
My name is Ronald Ritchie. You just told me like 2 children.
Just over a minute later, police appear in the footage. In the span of about a second, police can be heard shouting at Crawford and shooting him twice. Crawford is facing to the side with the BB gun swinging loosely toward the ground. As the officers advance, he appears to bend his knees.
There's another one with the guy laying on the street where the cops shoot the guy while the guy's laying on the street. There's another, like, there's a list of these. Now, in dealing with this, a football player decides to take a knee. And he does so in a campaign. Let's see. Colin Kaepernick. Remember, the reason Colin Kaepernick came to fame was because he took a knee to push back against the police killing of human beings. That is a good fucking thing. He was doing God's work. And like Martin Luther King being dragged before the cops, being dragged and bitten on by dogs, being hit and beaten, Colin Kaepernick, too, is facing some pushback on doing this. Now, some people have castigated him as being anti-American for doing something where he's pointing out, look at what they're doing. People are being murdered. They're killing people. Now, I throw a pigskin. That's what I do. There's one grown man, I'm throwing a pigskin to another grown man. In the same way of nonviolence, I'm going to take a knee. It's like a sit-in. There's nothing against it. It's not violent. This is what I'm going to do. But I'm going to make this a statement, and I'm going to associate that statement with the violence that's taking place out there because I want the world to be aware of what's taking place. They are killing us, and they are getting away with it after they're doing it. You should be aware. Now, there have been people who hated him from doing this, and I would argue that they know why he's doing this, but they want to attribute why he's doing this to this desecration of the flag nonsense. There'll be some idiots that take this, and there'll be some people who just want the argument to push back against this because they hate the idea that he's attributing this to the police violence. His beatings is the losing of his contracts. Just because you do good doesn't necessarily mean good follows. What I mean by that is, yes, Martin Luther King was doing God's work, but do you believe it was an easy task doing God's work? I guarantee you that it wasn't. And after attributing all of this, and after him pointing to all of this, and for everything that Kaepernick was trying to get across, and for everything that Kaepernick stood for while he was taking the knee, this is now being commodified into a campaign ad of tennis shoes. Do you understand what I'm getting at here? Why this is soul crushing? Like, I understand from an emotional point of view, there's this aspect of the human spirit that this is, like this represents. Like, whatever you want to say that Kaepernick was doing, if you want to say they stood for anything, if you want to say symbols matter, this thing of, yeah, I'm taking a knee, I have a power afro, and I'm saying they're killing us, and we need to be aware of it. And you may hate my guts for saying it, but God damn it, I'm going to say it because it's true. I threw a pigskin. There's nothing more ridiculous than a grown man in spandex throwing a pigskin to another grown man in a spandex, and I get paid handsomely for it, but the least I can do is this. That's a statement. If a symbol is going to mean anything, it's intangible, yes. But in this odd way, there's this bizarre commodification of it of, we're going to take whatever this means, whatever you think this means, because it's going to mean something different to each and every person who sees that particular symbol, but whatever you think this means, associate it with us, Nike, associate it with us. We're commodifying this intangible thing of the human spirit, and we're going to shove it down into a material existence of profit for us and our company. If you're going to be edgy, if you're going to be adventurous, if you're going to be this man who's pushing back and this guy is pushing forward in the human spirit, wear Nikes when you're doing it. Just fucking do it. Just do it in Nikes. I understand from the Kaepernick point of view that Kaepernick is just a guy. Martin Luther King ultimately was the person who was using a strategy of sit-ins, but he wasn't the strategy himself. Kaepernick is a guy who threw footballs, who started a strategy, meaning a tactic. Martin Luther King was the strategy and the tactic. He wasn't just one of these things. So it's not fully fair to me to feel this way about Kaepernick doing this. So I need you to understand, I'm of two minds on this. In the one sense, it is soul crushing as an anti-capitalist to see hope commodified, or to see triumph of the human spirit commodified in this way. Utterly soul crushing. They don't get it. If a symbol is to mean anything, god damn it, this is one of those symbols that I would have wished stood for something, as opposed to being shoved into a profit, an icon of profit, or a thing for profit. It weakens it. I'm sorry, it weakens it. It breaks that triumph of the human spirit. Almost, you lose something in the commodification of it. That's all I'm saying. If a symbol is to mean anything, this idea of hope and triumph and everything else, yes, those are epic terms. And it has nothing to do with the material possession to which they are trying to attribute these qualities to. It's aggravating to me that they're even able to do it. The only reason Nike would do this if they believe that there's a plus and minus for them and that they gain in this. Nike is a corporation. It is going to do whatever it needs to do to maximize its profit. Now, from the standpoint of somebody who's looking at this, they say, wow, this is an edgy choice. This is an edgy choice, but it's only edgy if Nike says, people are going to hate us for this, but do we give a shit about those people if those people are wearing Nikes? Meaning, the very people who are going to hate us for this are people who aren't wearing our shoes, so they can fuck off. By the same token, we look edgy as fuck to the people who do wear our shoes. And they're going to wear our shoes that much harder because we have attributed and associated ourselves with Colin Kaepernick, who took a stand and was blackballed for that stand. But he's blackballed in Nikes. And god damn it, they feel some kind of way about the fact that he's being blackballed. And because Nike was willing to go out on a limb for him, which is not going out on a limb at all, because they would have never went out on a limb for him. But they don't know that. They don't know that. They think this was a edgy choice. This wasn't an edgy choice at all. Especially if you do a cost-benefit analysis and you find that the majority of the people who are wearing your shoes are okay with the choice. And the people who don't wear your shoes might not like that choice, but those people weren't going to wear Nikes anyway. So what do you care? So what do you care? You have a group of people who have now created an us versus them dichotomy, because there are going to be some people who hate this choice and other people who love this choice, which is going to make those people who love this choice that much more, because it confirms the reality of things. Yeah, from a business standpoint, this makes perfect sense. I get it. From Colin Kaepernick's standpoint, he's a dude who took a stand because he believed in something. He's also a dude that needs to feed his family. He needs to light his house. He needs to pay for his dog. He needs to be able to eat his Cheerios. He's a guy that's been blackballed for a choice, and he needs a paycheck. I feel a particular way about it because I don't like the denigration of the idea. And I find that infusing that into cash, into profit, into this commodification of whatever that is, triumph of the human spirit, statement of defiance, this idea of resistance. Human spirit commodified. Loses something of that human spirit. That's what I'm saying. It's the breaking of a symbol. The very act of commodifying the symbol breaks the symbol. You may think I'm wrong on that. That's what I think. That's what I think. I don't think you can infuse... Cops are murdering people. This is a bad thing. Whether you're white or black, cops are murdering people. This is a bad thing. Now, take what I just said, take everything that means, and commodify it. Turn it into a profit thing. That's what they're doing. That's what I'm looking at it and seeing. When I see this, I understand everybody's reasons for doing it. It doesn't make me feel any better about it. I understand why Kaepernick would do it, because he needs a job and he needs a paycheck and he's a person who's in this particular system. I get it. I understand why Nike would do it. It makes us look edgy as fuck. And anybody who looks at this, who loves Kaepernick, are going to wear our shoes religiously. They're going to, I'm wearing Nikes. Fucking resistance itself. The very fact that he associates himself with the thing imbues no qualities of the thing. But people don't know that. And the value of advertising is that you can get across people some idea that wearing those shoes in any way, means something that they're doing, or get something across that they are. I get it. I don't have to like it. I don't hate nobody for it, so it's not like that. But fuck. The commodification of the human spirit. It just sucks. I don't like it. I look at this as an anti-capitalist, and it looks... How do you commodify pain? Right? Like, yeah, let me read this first. Corporate appropriation, that's pretty much. Can we add a new term to the progressive lexicon? Corporate appropriation, the appropriation of another's non-corporate message to push a corporate message. Yeah. Corporate appropriation, I like that. That flag though. That flag though. It's so odd how his message of, I'm not going to take the same position as respect you do during the national anthem. Rather, I'll take a different respectful position to call attention to police brutality was twisted through paid patriotism to anti-flag. It's so odd how this message of, I'm not going to take the same position of respect you do during the national anthem. Rather, I'll take the different position of respectful position to call attention to police brutality through twisted paid patriotism. Yeah, that is weird, right? I thought that too. It was like, look, there could be a group of people who hate him doing this, just as an absolute. You're calling attention to police brutality, and that brutality doesn't affect me. I'm white. That brutality affects them, so I'm okay with this. So, yeah, there's a bit of racism associated with this, however intense that is. And I'm using the word, but I'm using the word with this idea of a moderated 0 to 10. It's not always 10. Sometimes it doesn't affect me, so I don't care. You know what I mean? That's not necessarily racism. That's just being, I'm a human being. That issue doesn't affect me. I'm not all that engaged in that particular issue that affects them, somebody else. That is apathy. I don't know if apathy is the same thing. I don't think apathy is the same thing personally. I'm calling attention to this. And that was taken to, he's desecrating the flag. And it's like, God, that's like, you know what breaks down communication between people sometimes? It's not being honest. Right? It's not being honest. He's taking the knee. He's being honest. What he's saying is being honest. Now, you may not like the fact that he's doing that. Well, engage the fact that he's doing that. Well, they don't want to engage the fact that he's doing that, because engaging the fact that he's doing it legitimizes what he's talking about. Instead, it's you're desecrating the flag. I rather associate this with desecrating the flag because I want to talk about it as desecrating the flag as opposed to we're killing African Americans. That's a disgusting way to go about conversation. And that leads to no conversation. Like, at that point, this is what this person is saying about it. This is what this person is saying about it. You make your choice. You choose your world. You choose your world. Kills for a living. If we all buy Nikes, racism would end, police shootings will end, and everyone will come together and hold hands and sing, "We are world." Just forget that Nike uses sweatshops and prison labor to make their products. Just do it. Just do it. I love that one. Because I could feel that this was coming into like this kumbaya moment. And so even though I didn't know what was ahead as I was reading it, at the very least I could read it in a way that was going to come to this kumbaya moment in the sun. It's like we can all run in the sun with our breasts out and our shirts off, and all of the laws that prevent women from showing their tits under normal circumstances get wiped away, and women will feed with their breasts and their kids, and we're in a new day, all wearing Nikes. No such thing as racism. It's gone. It's erased from the planet. But everybody has a free pair of Nikes from the government. God damn it, I had a dream. I have a dream. Yeah. Let's see, who's here? Jamal's pretending to care about white people now. Oh, that's funny. I care about all people, dude. I care about all people. That's what you miss. That, like, I get aggravated by these conversations that devolve into purely issues of race. Because somebody asked me on the channel one day, he said something about, I don't have many black friends. What do I do for something? And it's like, you understand that the same thing that plague you are the same thing that plague us. For the most part, we're just human beings, and I'm a robot, you're a robot. We're maybe different configurations of that robot from the standpoint of color, and then maybe different things from the standpoint of culture, but ultimately we're fundamentally the same. The most aggravating conversation that we have about race is that there's some level of difference, or that those differences are so expansive that you can't mend the gap. I don't have that belief. I don't have that belief at all. For all intents and purposes. When I look at this stuff from the level of politics, I look at this stuff from the level of all of us, not this person of a particular race or that person of a particular race. And yes, that does blind me to some degree to some differences in the way that you have different cultural sets. Fair enough. But I think the things that overlap from the standpoint of healthcare and education, that cuts across all lines. When I'm arguing about anti-corruption, that cuts across all lines. Regardless of where you are in the political distribution, I guarantee you, if you're being honest, which is the people who I want, with a level of honesty, care about corruption. We can have that conversation about the other stuff. Can we agree that corruption sucks and should not be a part of our political discourse? Yes, I fucking care about white people. I care about all people. I can make that case. You can't even own up to the fact that Trump is fucking racist. That's who this Kaepernick gear is marketed to. People like me who have asshole conservative family members that they want to piss off a fresh new Nike gear. Yeah, I hate that. Fucking hate that. Fucking hate it. I don't like it. By the same token, again, this duality of mine on this, I get it. I don't like it. I get it. When I think about sports, when I think about football, I think about ultra-nationalistic, paid, pro-military celebration. So obviously, when I think about systemic and endemic problems with unequal law enforcement and racist police practices, I think I need some sports sneakers. That's what you think about. I need some sports sneakers. When I think about endemic problems with unequal law enforcement and racist police practices, I think I need sneakers. I need sneakers. Yeah. I am of dual mind. My wife has an opinion on this. I don't know what her opinion on this is yet. She'll tell me afterwards. Trump's a fucking racist is exactly the rhetoric that keeps us in this mess. But let's assume for the moment that what people consider to be racist or sexist is gradations at times. Let's take that to be true, because that is true. I think that's true. That it's not. Let's say the guy from Bontonk, Alabama, who believes that Obama was a Kenyan Manchurian candidate. Let's say that's one spectrum, who's dreaming of a day of the South coming back. Robert E. Lee is going to come back from heaven or something. Let's say that guy is on one scale. Let's say the guy is at the 0 scale. Racist as fuck. Let's call that end of the scale. Let's say that there are gradations at points where, depending upon where you are on the political distribution scale, you may look at it from your relative perspective and say, God damn it, I think that's racist. From what I would consider, I think that's racist. What I would put to you is that everybody is in that particular position. All of us. All of us are points of view that are floating about, engaging in certain political discourse from our own perspectives. All of these things are relative to one another. I look at a person who says, from my particular political distribution, where I am, culturally and everything else, when a person tells me that the majority of the people coming from Mexico are rapists and drug dealers, but I think if you're a nice person, I ask, why do you have that thought? Why do you have that thought? Why is that thought in your head? That thought that has nothing to do with reality at all, where you're saying that the majority of the people who are coming from a particular place are racist. Why? 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 Why is that in your head? Why is that in your noggin? That is such a wild and outlandish thought to say. That is an amazing fucking thing. If a person thinks that way and he tells me that, yeah, I say, I think that guy's racist. At least in the context of Hispanics, I think that guy's racist. Now you look at me and say, hey, that keeps us in this mess. Keeps us in what mess? Identifying a person who's saying racist shit keeps us in what quagmire? I don't know what you're talking about, especially when I'm giving you an instance of a person saying something that has no basis in reality. And then the only way the person can come to that conclusion is, yeah, I think that person is a bit racist. And for fuck's sake, call it what it is. Call it what it is. Tell the truth, shame the devil. Now, does that mean that everybody who votes for Trump is racist? Fuck no. Fuck no. Does that mean I can look at objective reality and say objective reality is what it is? Yes, I can do that. I can do both at the same time. Shit, man. Fuck. All right. I'm going to get my wife's opinion on this. I'm curious about what she's going to say about this, but I'll leave it here. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. And I've said this before, the channel has been shut down. I've been trying to get off Patreon. So if you can even assist with $1, please consider doing so. Thank you very much. All right, guys. You all have a good night.